actually a lot of benefits to emotional abuse. We like to focus on analyzing and worrying about it, but there's a benefit in the fact that you've now been reset. You've now had a bad experience that shows you what you want, who you want to be, what kind of relationships you want, and what kind of career you want, and everything, suddenly your purpose is crystal clear and golden and red and on fire. And it's because you now have the contrast of a situation that is a don't want to tell you even more clearly what you do want. And so when you've gone through emotional abuse, there is a rumination stage. There is a constant need to kind of process, analyze, ruminate, watch YouTube videos over and over and analyze. Oh, was it this? Was it that? Was it this? Oh, how do I do this? And then there's there's a kind of like that has fed you to a point where you are now ready for the next life, the reset, the optimism again. And so what emotional abuse does for you is it also can get you out of whatever routine you were in with needing the dopamine hit of that person. You now are aware of how that really was empty because you're starting to hang out with your friends again and you're realizing, that situation that I have been imagining was this infatuation, love, is really, they didn't know me. So you can't love someone if they don't know you, and you can't love them if you don't know them. So there was no reciprocal love. There was nothing there. There's just a void being filled, but being filled with a donut or a cake that isn't actually anything nourishing and isn't even really that sweet at the time, just a very artificial sweetness, right? And so another thing that I realized a benefit of getting out of emotional abuse is that, at least in my terms of my situation, before I got into kind of that dynamic, I was in a dynamic of being obsessive about politics and the polarity and, oh no, there's the evil, like extreme left versus the extreme right, and oh, let's look and analyze and see who's doing what today and how they're demonizing each other and how they're othering each other and how I see through it all, So there was this fixation on a different villain, right? There was a fixation on the villain of, oh, the left can't look in the mirror and see themselves. Oh, the left is reducing our medical decisions to the government, and oh, the left is othering people, and there was this kind of there was a conspiracy theory kind of paranoia that I was acting out with that current. Those were my predominant thoughts. Were fixation on that, and a fixation on, oh no, how will art be made in this polarized time with the woke left, So those were the recurring thoughts, on and on. I was listening to so much that affirmed that. I was listening to Rubin Report. I was listening to Jason Christoff, and all of that was great. But you know what the emotional abusive situation got me out of? Is it got me out of I stopped worrying about all that because I started to then focus on this guy, and he also he had his own belief system that was part of he had to infiltrate me with that, and so that was my focus. And then he was my focus because he was confusing, and he was more confusing than even the political climate. Like the political climate was confusing, but it was predictable. And once the Ukraine stuff happened, it definitely was like, I completely wasn't involved in thinking about how everyone suddenly immediately switched and put up and it's like they replaced their sign of virtue signal. And for me, I didn't even follow the current fight and the current drama being played out with that. But see, what this did for me is it got me out of that. I really just switched one kind of villain to the new villain. Oh, look at this villain who's really confusing. He's a villain, but he's a hero. Sometimes he's an angel, sometimes he's a demon. Oh, what is he? Oh, what's he doing? Oh, let's analyze it. Oh, so there was such a pull to a new situation. But really, I had been focusing on kind of the narcissistic elite leaders before and how they were pushing out propaganda. So that focus just switched to a personal person who basically was giving me propaganda about himself, his false self, that I needed to buy into, and if I didn't, then I would be devalued, and I would get, and so I realized, I've actually replaced a collective situation to ruminate about, and then a more individualized situation. But what does this all say about me? So I could finally do what I need to do, which is reflect on why I'm so preoccupied with all this, and why I'm attracted to this paranoid mindset of, how will I prepare for the worst? How will I be vigilant? This is confusing. Let's just ruminate forever, propaganda, they're lying, so what that did is it really got me out of it really gave me some clarity on, again, like I said at the beginning, who I am, who I want to be, how do I want to spend my time? How do I want to spend my thoughts? Do I want to be preoccupied with looking for villains and hypocrisy everywhere? Because with my recent emotional abuse dynamic, that guy even said to me, you are really preoccupied with finding the hypocrisy in me, and he used it as an example of that Humpty Dumpty archetype of wanting someone who seems to be on a pedestal to fall, he said. And that's how he looked at it. And I said, you're right. There is this preoccupation with looking for hypocrisy. Ooh, look at a belief system. Here's some hypocrisy. Ooh, here's religion. Here's spirituality. They all have hypocrisy. And there is an obsession I have with finding it. Well, I need to look at why I have that, and why maybe that's fine for me to indulge in, but what do I really want to be that person? Is that really helping my own interests and my own life and my quality of life, right? And I gotta say that it didn't, because what it did is it made me buy into this either or that ultimately made me, by being preoccupied with the political fight, I then got into a more alienated, isolated state, because I didn't have friends anymore just for making a simple decision that I didn't want to pick a team. And so by nature of that, I'm already demonized because I didn't pick the right team. So I lost friends, and then when you're in an alienated situation, you're vulnerable to then meet people who you may have a tendency to idealize and make them the new hero that's going to come save you from yourself, from your loneliness, from the alienation, from the fear of the future, from all of that. And so the next phase makes sense. After kind of getting the courage to stand up for myself and losing friends, I then had to learn how to stand up for myself in the context of a one-on-one relationship. And I learned how to do that. Of course, there was a lot of self-abandonment and a lot of really over-identifying and all of that at the beginning, because I have a misbelief that, if you overgive, if you over-empathize, then they're going to see that, and then they're going to give you love. And they're going to see that you're really trying to understand, But that's not how everybody is, right? In fact, when you get in a pattern of that, if I just self-sacrifice enough, then I'm going to get love back. No, a lot of times when you're self-sacrificing, you're with a person that's just going to take, and then there's a sense of entitlement where they just assume you'll keep doing that, and you are basically in a slave and supplicant role. You're not in the role of an equal, And so you gotta start to realize that love is not overgiving. Love is not self-sacrifice. Love is a reciprocal exchange and curiosity where both people seek to understand each other, and both people take responsibility for their part, and both people don't make the other the villain or the other, but they realize, hey, this is what's mine, this is what's yours, this is the story I'm telling myself here, and there's an attempt to actually get to the bottom of things and not, have that blame, shame, deflect, dismiss kind of a dynamic. But anyway, so the benefits of emotional abuse is, like, again, you've got a magnifying glass up to yourself, and you're seeing, oh, this is a pattern. Okay, so this is a pattern of me. I'm always looking for almost this. I'm looking for almost a savior. I'm looking for a villain. I'm doing that in the political climate where I'm hoping that someone kind of saves and helps us for the future. And then I'm doing that in real life where I'm hoping that a savior helps me become my best self and blah, blah, blah. Or, loves me so that I love myself, even though I do love myself, but it's like I have to have someone agree with me. There's something there. But so you're just suddenly, all these things are amplified. You think, okay, I'm getting a better understanding of weird recurring patterns that I don't like about myself, that I want to level up. And then I'm getting, another thing too is I left my job in November because it again, it didn't align with me politically. They wanted me to churn out propaganda, and I don't want to write that. And it also I also did not feel like it was people that I aligned with. Like overall, I had the courage to say, I don't have to be in the mindset of I have to stick with this because it's what I have. I'm going to open myself up to other opportunities and just get out of something that's not working, And that's the same type of thing with a job or a relationship. You got get out of something when it's not working. The more you ruminate or the more you try to force something that's not easy and natural, then it can get harder because you're really pushing up against the friction of something that is not aligned. And you're thinking, oh, if I just, again, it's having that idea of if I just keep over giving, or if I just make myself into something else, maybe this will work. No. So the benefits of emotional abuse is you also start to realize the importance when people always talk about how you have to say your needs and say your boundaries. Okay, before you just thought, oh, guys, everybody keeps saying those phrases. I'm so tired of the phrase boundaries. I'm so tired of the phrase needs. Like, of course and then I would say, oh, I'm all the love languages. There's like a boundarylessness, just watery, whoa, everything's up. And after you've been in an emotional abuse, you're like, no, those are actually good concepts. And you're right. I'm going to actually figure out what my needs are. Oh, I know what my needs are now. I like it when people communicate clearly, have a desire to talk, and have they don't have a unreliability. And I like it when I can tell them when I'm on a trip my flight times, and they'll check in and say, have a safe flight. And then when I land, they'll check in to make sure that I got in. That's something that is a need of mine. I find it really reassuring when somebody cares. And so suddenly now, oh, I learned that about myself. And I stood up for myself in knowing, oh, this is a need. This is a test. I see, oh, is this person able to do that? Do they see it's important to me? Do they see it brings me this sense of reassurance and safety? Oh, they don't? Okay. And then another thing is responding to their needs, but not in such a way that you're assuming what they are, but you want to almost have them state it, and then you restate it so that it's to their satisfaction. So if somebody says, I need physical affection, you say, okay, if we always have like a weekly massage, and then that's kind of our little ritual, is that what you need? Like, that's how you follow up with, making things more direct. So it gives you all these, so the emotional abuse makes you see in contrast, oh, this isn't really working, this isn't good, I want something healthy. And then it helps you define what that means instead of just vaguely saying, I want something healthy, right? And emotional abuse makes you a better communicator because you realize how important it is to be direct instead of going off on a tangent or going off on something irrelevant or trying to play the victim or trying to play this kind of good girl or this like trying to make yourself good in the argument. Like you realize, you know what, actually people trust someone willing to own their shadow and someone willing to own their badness. So that's an important lesson. Once somebody sees that you're not just a mannequin or a lobotomized Pollyanna, you're a real person. You have dimension. And so they have more trust and love for you because they actually see you. They know you. You can only love if you're known. So being known is them seeing what's wrong and bad about you. So owning your shadow is just as important as owning your needs. Owning your problems, your responsibilities, your fears, and your greatness. But all we ever hear in these videos and spiritual stuff now is own your greatness. Don't be afraid to choose self-care, you know. But the truth is we got to choose self-accountability. Accountability is the most attractive quality. And as I go forward, I'm going to be looking for that. And that's what emotional abuse has benefited me. I have now refined my relationship and career and better self, you know, optimizing who I want to be and what I want out of life in a far clearer way. And it's also given me the guts to stand up for myself because the more you start to stand up for yourself, and that just means saying what you think, saying what you really feel, and not in a way that is shame and blaming, but in a way that's just advocating for yourself instead of thinking you have to self-abandon to keep connection. So anyway, there's a lot to be learned from emotional abuse. There are benefits, and I think we've got to have that optimistic mindset to go forward instead of getting caught in the rumination and obsession of, oh, this happened and now I have to recover and blah, blah, blah. No, you are already in a better spot just from going through that emotional abuse. You are now in a spot of reset, time to get up, time to level up. There's an optimism to it, there's an empowerment to it. And so I hope this helped you feel that kind of empowerment.